So what I want to show you how to do now is actually change your scene size and how to control the camera, but there's a few things I need to set up first before we do that. So this setup you've already learned in previous videos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and watch the earlier videos, and if you do, then watching it set up again will be helpful. So let's just go ahead and click on our media tab here and bring in a few pieces of artwork. So I'll click open to all of those. And what we want to do is drag a few of those into our stage here so they become actors. So I have a few blocks, piece of grass as we did before, and we'll go ahead and bring in that little bubble. We'll go back to our actors and make sure we name all of them. Again, don't get lazy about naming your actors. It'll really come in handy down the road. So block 2. Grass, and ball. Pretty simple stuff. So now we'll just go ahead and set up our scene here. And what I'm going to do is take this first block and I'm going to make sure in graphics that it also has vertical and horizontal wrap set. So we'll switch that to tiled, vertical wrap also to tiled. That way I can grab this block and stretch it out in any direction that I want so it's tiled. For the grass, I'm going to go into the graphics for the grass, and we just need to make sure that we have the horizontal wrap set to tiled. And stretch that across here as well. And for this other block, we're also going to set up the horizontal and vertical wrap to be set to tiled. That way we can change its tile across the screen here, and it doesn't get distorted. So it looks like I dragged in all the actors in the right order so that everything is layered the way that I want it to be. But again, don't forget, if something is in front of another actor, you can of course go up to layout and switch it that way. Also, you can click on this layers tab right here, and if we open this up, you can see how all of my actors are layered in my scene. So for instance, if I wanted to bring the ball behind everything else, I could just drag it here, and then you notice that it's now behind this block. So if you kind of lose an actor that way, you can of course go in this layer tab, and then we can drag the ball back up to the top, which is where we want it to be. Okay, so we have our scene pretty much set up the way that we want, but what we want to do now is we want our scene to be larger than the default that we're working with. So for instance, if I were to just go ahead and hit the play or preview to simulate this, this is exactly what my entire game is going to look like. It's kind of small. So what I want to do is I want to click on this Scenes tab here in the attributes. And by default, the size of our scene is 480 pixels by 320. So what I want to do is increase the width. You can increase the height and width, but for this example, we're just going to go ahead and increase the width. So instead of 480, I'm just going to type in 1000 and then hit enter. And you can see that my scene pushed over to the right here. So we have kind of all this blank space here. What I want to do is get this ball to control the camera. And before we do that, we actually have to get the ball to have some movement to it. So let's again go back to our Actors tab. I'll click on the ball. And again, I have the prototype area open, or the ball's brains open. And what we want to do is give it some simple rules and behaviors. So I'm going to click on a new rule. And what we want to do is assign a key. So the right key, and again I showed you how to do all of this in earlier videos. So if you're a little lost, just back up to a few of the basic videos. So the right key will go ahead and move the ball to the right. Pretty easy stuff. I'm going to create a new rule that says when the left key is pressed, then I want you to go ahead and move the ball to the left, which in this case, if I want to get it perfect, is 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and test that. So right key, left key, we get our ball to move back and forth. Now notice that my ball will go ahead and just move completely off screen. And this is where control camera comes into play. So let me back up. I'm actually going to put my ball kind of down on the ground here where it should be. And what we want to do is go into the ball actor, and we want the ball actor to control the camera. So all we need to do is go into our behaviors library and scroll down to where it says control camera and drag that into our ball actor's brain. So now watch what happens when I move the ball to the end of the screen here. It pushes the camera with it. So see how when I set up my scene we have all this blank area? Well, my ball is moving kind of to these lines here. It might be hard for you to see on the recording here, but there's these kind of border lines here, and as it gets to the end of that border line and smashes into it, it pushes the camera over. So first things first, we can go ahead and fix our scene here so that it extends all the way, and that's again the benefit of tiling things. I can just quickly grab the handles on all of these things and tile them the way that I want. So our scene is complete, and we'll test that out real quick. So now our ball can move across until it gets to the end of the scene size that we created, and we can push the camera back and forth, back and forth. So really easy to do, and all we did again was drag inside our ball actor's head the control camera behavior to control the camera. Now one little edit that I'd like to point out is notice my ball has to actually move all the way to the end of the scene here before it starts pushing the camera. What if you want it to control the camera right away? Well, that's actually easy to set up. You see these two little blocks next to the play or preview button? If we click on the block to the right, you'll actually get these handles that show up. And if we were to drag these handles inward, then this is the area the ball is going to bump into before it starts pushing the camera. You can see by default it was pushed all the way out, which is why our ball would travel all the way to the end of this area before it moved the camera. If we push this all the way in like this, and then click on the first block again, and then preview this, you can see when we move our ball, right away the camera is moving. Our ball only moves a tiny little bit before that camera starts to get pushed. So depending on what you want, you might set it that the camera boundaries are way out here, so your ball has to get all the way to the end before it pushes the camera, or they're set very, very tight so that when our ball moves right away, our camera moves. So there was a lot to take in there, and a lot of that was based on what we learned in earlier videos. So if anything seemed confusing, it's probably because you didn't pay attention to an earlier video or you skipped it. So go back and learn some of those basics again. Otherwise, go ahead and practice in creating a scene that has artwork in it. The artwork is tileable, so you can go ahead and quickly tile it across entire scenes like this. Make sure you open your scene tab to go ahead and change your scene size. And then experiment with using the control camera behavior inside an actor like this ball, which has simple movement controls, to push the camera left and right across your scene. And you can see that you're already well on your way to building entire game worlds.